I've been trying for the last 45 minutes to get this tank out of this cupboard. I've tried to drain it. I've drained it, so it's drained completely now. It wouldn't come out a certain way, so then I thought, well, maybe if I take the lagging off the front of it, it might give us a little bit more room to try and get it out. That hasn't worked. So then I thought, well, if I take the frame away from underneath it, drop it down, it might come out a little bit easier. And that's the point where I'm at the minute. So if I turn the camera around and just give you a little bit of an idea of what I'm dealing with. Right, it's Monday morning and I'm on a job that I got called out to a week or so ago. The customer had a problem with their hot water cylinder. It sprung a leak on the bottom. They were panicking a little bit, so I came out, had a look, advised them on which way we was going to go with it. So I've come today to sort it out. So let me just show you what we're dealing with. We've got an Alson Economy 7 twin element direct hot water cylinder. This house has just got storage heaters in it. So this is just doing the hot water. Now, as you can see from the front of it, it has been weeping over time. You've got sort of water runs along here. But the customer said they came to it the other week. All the towels underneath were soaking wet. So they pulled them out, had a look, and they were greeted with the bottom of the cylinder completely gone. So it's been dripping like that for a week or so. I came and had a look at it. I've ordered them a Gledhill 90 litre direct hot water cylinder, which you got downstairs. I've just been to Plumb Base to pick up this morning. So what we're going to do is get this out, get all this framework out, build a little bit of a base on the bottom using what we've got here, and then we're going to get the 90 litre Gledhill cylinder in. We're going to have to take the trims off here to fit it in. It's going to be a bit of a squeeze. We've got cold here, we can come off that. We've got hot here going to the rest of the house. But what we have got to do, which is going to be a bit of a pain, I think, is we've got to run the metal D2 discharge pipe under this floor here and out, and then run it down the wall to terminate on the floor down there. So that, getting this floor up and getting a new metal D2 discharge pipe into here is going to be a little bit tricky. So let's get this cylinder out, let's get the new one in and get this hot water back up and running. So to start off with this job, I'm going to get this floor up in here and get this D2 discharge pipe put in place, terminating outside, and hopefully get it up in the corner of this airing cupboard, and then we can just concentrate completely inside here. But this is one of them houses where they haven't done, well, they have done tongue and groove, they've done a bit of everything, I think, but you know, when they put chipboarding on the floor, it's just an absolute pain to get up. Got a little bit of tongue and groove here. I don't know how far that goes down, but chipboard here, so we've got to get this up to run our new 22mm copper pipe out. Let's try and get this floor up as best we can. So we've got that section of that chipboard up, and luckily it was just against the flush edge of the tongue and groove here. But down this side, this chipboard is lipped into these here, so we're going to have to run the multi-tool along there and along this line here, and then possibly we might even come across here, but I'm just worried about getting into that airing cupboard that is the other side of there with the pipe, so we may have to trim it right up in the end and then just brace it across that back edge. But we've got to get this one up, and to be fair, at least the joists aren't too bad, so hopefully we can feed some pipe in, and even if we've got to do it in two and put a coupler in the middle, there's always a way of getting a bit of 22mm in there. So let's send the multi-tool down the side here, cut this off, and hopefully this board will lift out a little bit easier. So that's all that floor up now. I've took it right up close to that skirting, and funnily enough there was a joist underneath it. But you can see the overflow pipe that is feeding in this tank, this side. So what I'm going to do is bring up a new 22mm copper discharge pipe into there, and then I'll probably just bend it into this part of the joist here, run it all the way down, and then what we're going to do is take it out and take it down in the corner and discharge onto the floor down the bottom there. Not that it'll ever run, because as we know it's just a pressure relief for a hot water cylinder, because it's going to be obviously a pressurised hot water cylinder. But just in case it ever lets go, that's where we've got to put it out there. So let's begin getting some holes through these joists, because it's got to have a constant fall all the way out from where it's going to discharge in here. It's got to constantly fall, and then we can drill it through the wall outside. And with the floor completely exposed, I've just worked out where we're going to have the D2 pipe coming through. So I've marked the joists, and then outside I also marked exactly where it needed to come through. I've drilled the hole through here. Basically, I've worked it out off the height of this window ledge, and then working off the edge of the brickwork. 3 inches in off this edge of this brickwork here, which I marked here. Then a metre from the bottom of the sill down under the floor, and drilled it through. And to probably my amazement, but I don't know if you're going to be able to pick it up, we have a drill bit sticking through that joist there. So what I'm going to do is core a hole through there, then we can sleeve that 22mm coming through, get it in, get it through this floor, get it poking up in that airing cupboard, and then we can get this floor down. We can connect outside once we've finished doing that airing cupboard. So this is outside. As I say, we've got our drill there. I've got my 4 bits, so we're going to core through, then I'm going to put some 28mm copper sleeving through there to then put the 22mm out through. Bring that discharge pipe down there. We've okayed it with the customer. He's happy for it to run down there. It's not going to be a problem. And as I said before, it's only ever going to sort of run if there's an issue with that cylinder. So we'll get this cored through, get some pipe work in, so we can work out then internally where we're going to drill through them joists. So I've slightly changed how I'm going to run this D2 pipe in, to be honest. I'm going to lay it down and just notch all the way along the top of these joists. It's only going to be 22mm, and it's not going to be a problem because they're having obviously chipboard put back on, or board in put back on over the top. It just makes life a little bit easier. I can lay a full length in. I haven't got to try and poke it in and hook it in. So we're going to do that. We're going to mark it up now, either side of the pipe. So lay the pipe in, mark either side of it, notch it out, lay the pipe in, get that side poking out the wall, and then we can concentrate. If need be, I can come down to here, put a little sweat bend here, sweat bend there, hook it up into that airing cupboard. So we've got the D2 22mm copper pipe in now, and I've poked this 22mm through here. This is the original hole from where the overflow was for the cylinder. So I pulled it out, I poked that in, and it was a bit of a faff to get in, so I don't want to take it back out to show you how I put it in. So that's in place. What we're going to do is just bring this across here, and I'm just going to put a little set on a bit of pipe there, and then that is all the way down there, and we can get it outside. So we just pulled that little sweat bend there. We'll leave that where it is there, and what I'll do, I'll cut that about there, and then if we just push that 22mm all the way down, and we can mark that and cut it there. So we can then fit a couple of there, and then we're down that far end of the room. So we've got that bend now soldered in. I've put a little bit of lag in underneath the pipe as it passes over the top of those joists, just to stop it moving around, rattling. There's going to be no heat through it anyway, or no water through it, unless obviously when the cylinder's in, the pressure relief goes. But to be honest, 9 times out of 10, it's never going to have any water in anyway. So we can now get that board back down onto here, roll that through, and concentrate on just poking it out through the wall, getting it out there, and then we can go outside and finish dropping it down the wall. So we're just outside now, getting this pressure relief D2 discharge pipe into position. Got our sleeve going through the wall, put some clips down the front. I've just soldered up an elbow onto this pipe, so what we'll do, we'll thread it through into that bedroom. And what I will do afterwards, I'm going to seal up round here anyway, so that'll be sealed up, and then we'll just clip this pipe into position here. The customer said they're going to paint this pipe black anyway, so it doesn't stand out as much. With that in place now, we'll go up in that bedroom, connect it up in there, finish getting that floor down, and then we can move on to begin draining that cylinder down and getting it out. That is the floor back down now. The D2 pipe is completely in outside, and it comes into the airing cupboard just here. So this is the original overflow off the cylinder. Now that pipe is in, that's been a bit of a pain really getting all that in, but it's got to go in. That's regs. The D2 pipe has to go in. It has to be metal or copper, or, you know, it has to be able to withstand a certain amount of temperature. So Now we've got that in essence, we can begin doing what we've come here to do. So we've got the cold feed here. It comes up into the ceiling there. It goes across and it feeds the bathroom. So if you look on the side of it, you can see it stabbing off to feed this cylinder. What I'm going to do is shut the water off, cap that off there, get this cylinder completely drained down. Fortunately for us, where it's leaking under the bottom, the actual pipe coming out the bottom is going to the hot water. So when we turn the water off to this tank and isolate the tank and drain it, it will drain completely down to the bottom level of the tank. So we should be able to get it out. We've also got to take off these trims in the door to get the new Gledhill cylinder in because it is that tight. We've got a little bit of faffing around to do. We've got to isolate the electrics, take it out the two elements. They've got an economy 7 one here, and they've got this fairly newish one here, but we'll disconnect that because the new cylinder's only got the one element in it. It's quite a small cylinder because I think, as I've already said, they've just got the basin here, the basin downstairs, one bath, the electric shower. They don't use the bath a lot, so they weren't overly worried about having a massive tank taking up this area. So let's get the water off and begin draining this Alson Economy 7 cylinder down. Right, what we'll do first with this cylinder then is go downstairs, turn the cold main off, open the hot taps and begin to get that draining down. Then while it's draining down, we can just reach in here, get the main. Then while it's draining down, we can disconnect the immersion heaters and get all them out the way, get the overflow out, get the cold disconnected off the top, and then we can begin completely draining it down. We'll just open up everywhere we can and get it draining. So the hot water is stopped now coming out the taps and out the outlets. Now I assumed that this coming out the bottom of the tank would drain the whole of the tank, but if I try to shift it, you can tell there is a hell of a lot of water still inside here. So I can see if there's a drain point or some way of draining it down a little bit more, even if you've got a cut open here, because it'll have a like header tank in here, and see if we can get into the cylinder to try and get the water drained out of it, because it's certainly still full. I just thought I'd stick my head into the actual header tank of this cylinder to see if there's a way of getting a pipe internally through the header tank down into the cylinder, because there's a drain off under there that I hadn't spotted, but that's useless because it won't even open. So I managed to squeeze myself up through here. I don't know if you can see it, but so that is a fill pipe that goes from the header here in this sort of area down and fills obviously the cylinder below. So what I'm going to try and do is, I've got my hose here, I'm going to see if I can poke that down right down to the bottom of the tank and then draw the water off that way. Hopefully it'll work. If not, I'm not too sure how we're going to be able to empty it in situ with that drain off not working underneath. It's going to be a bit of a pig. So let's poke this down, and what we'll do, we'll offer up exactly sort of like the depth that it's got to go to. So if we sort of aim to get that much hose in there, if I keep my hand there, I'm going to poke it down, see if we can get it all the way in and see if it will siphon out. Now, for some strange reason, the audio went on this little clip, but we managed to poke that hose all the way down to the bottom of the cylinder, run this hose through the customer's house and just poked it into the kitchen sink because I couldn't quite make it reach outside. Now, to get it going, I started sucking it. In hindsight, I should have probably just used aquavac on it to get it going, but we got it going in the end, and it began to drain the cylinder with the hose poking down the top into that sort of little pipe that pokes down and feeds the rest of the cylinder. Right, 20 minutes later, and before we couldn't shift this tank because it was obviously still full of water up to about here. Now, plenty of movement in it, so we can look and getting that out. So I just assume that this hot pipe coming off the bottom, as it was coming out the bottom of the tank, maybe you know, obviously, so it's not the sediment at the bottom of the tank. Maybe it come to about here, but obviously it clearly come out maybe around here. But it is what it is. We've drained it down now. As I said, I just poked that hose down through the feed pipe going from the header tank, in effect, that feeds the cylinder, right down, all the way down, and it come to around here, I assume, or pretty much down the bottom, because it's completely empty now. So what we'll do, we'll get this overflow out, we'll get the hot feed disconnected off the bottom, and we'll try and get it out. I think we should be able to pull this one out this way, even though we've got these boxes here. The customer's brother's an electrician, so he's going to come and take these boxes off. I think we're just going to carry on reusing that one for the immersion on the new cylinder. But yeah, let's try and get this tank out as best we can. Now, I've just tried to move this cylinder, thinking it was going to be relatively easy to move because we drained the majority of the water out of it. It seems that there is still quite a bit of water in it, because instead of it coming out, the bottom just tipped and it just sort of wedged itself in here like this. So I've grabbed my immersion heater spanner. What I'm going to do is, it's a sort of a calculated risk. I've got 2 buckets here. I'm going to try and take the top immersion heater out first of all, see if I can poke the hose back in and see if it will pick up any water that's left inside the cylinder. Then once we're down to that level, I'm going to pop the bottom one out and see if we can just drain out the complete dregs out this cylinder. Just because there seems to be a fair bit of water still in it. My other alternative was to take that drain off, assuming there's about that much water in it and the 2 buckets would catch it. But I'm going to whip the top one out if I can, see if we can drain the bottom half of it out, but it's just a case of just trying what we can to get as much water out of it in situ so we can get it out of this little cupboard, because it is dead tight inside this cupboard anyway. So let's try and get that out. Hopefully it will come out all right. But yeah, these immersion heater spanners, I don't even know if it's going to fit it. They're never a great fit. I always find they're too big. But we'll see how we get on. If I had been 2 seconds quicker, we wouldn't have had all this water down here. I just thought I'd try again at undoing that drain off valve that was on the bottom, because I couldn't get these to shift. And all I did was try to get the drain off open, and it just sheared off the bottom of the cylinder. But now it's filling up that bucket. Luckily, I have them 2 buckets here ready, just in case. So it just goes to show, always keep some buckets around, or some towels around, or the wet vac around, because if something like this happens, you've got a little bit of a get out of jail free card, because we know we can get this bucket out, that bucket in. But it looks like it's slowing down a little bit now, thankfully. But no, that was a little bit touch and go then. But at least now we know that cylinder's going to be empty. But it's nearly empty, completely, all over the floor. Hopefully it's not gone too far down there. You can see the colour, look at the state of that coming out the bottom of there. That is out the bottom of the cylinder. That's disgusting. Yeah, so we had a bucket's worth left in it still. So there we go, I've just found the drain off. I was trying to undo it with obviously the drain off bit, thinking I could maybe unseize it, but I don't know if you can make that out. It's just completely sheared off there and just fell out the bottom and caused a bit of a panic. But that's empty now, so we're going to bung that little plug up at the bottom there and see if I can somehow get this out of this cupboard. And then we can take this framework out, put 2 little battens on the floor, and then begin to get the new one in place. So I've been trying for the last 45 minutes to get this tank out of this cupboard. I've tried to drain it. I've drained it, so it's drained completely now. It wouldn't come out a certain way, so then I thought, well, maybe if I take the lagging off the front of it, it might give us a little bit more room to try and get it out. That hasn't worked. So then I thought, well, if I take the frame away from underneath it, drop it down, it might come out a little bit easier. And that's the point where I'm at the minute. So if I turn the camera around and just give you a little bit of an idea of what I'm dealing with. So at the minute, it is wedged between the opening of this airing cupboard. As you can see, I tried to get the front off it. I thought it might have given us a little bit more of access, but you know, it's like when you just get to a point in a job and it's just doing your head in so much. Well, that's the point I'm at now with this, like that. What I'm going to do is just do what I can now to get it out, get it down, and have a good clear up here, and then reassess the situation there. Once this is out, it's going to be fairly straightforward, at least getting the new cylinder in and connecting it up. But just getting this out at the minute is proving to be the bane of my life. So bear with me. I'm going to get that out. I'll get back to you when I'm kicking it around outside. We're now wedged halfway out and halfway in. This is turning into a right pain, and it's really, really beginning to piss me off. Right, last little push. Last push to get it out, get it down, and get it outside. So, it is finally out of that airing cupboard, and it's currently on the stairs with me stood in front of it, leaning against it, because I'm going to slide it down here, straight out that front door. Then I'm going to tidy that up in there, tidy everything up here, get the water back on, and go home, because that has just crushed my hand, whacked my head on the side of the door. The metal thing has sliced the back of my arm. So I've had enough of it today. Some jobs you've just got to, I mean, I've put 2 days in for this anyway, but some jobs just really get to you, and you're like, do you know what, I'm going to get to that point and I'm going to call it a day for today. I said to the customer, worst case scenario, I'll get the water back on for you. You'll have your shower in there, because the shower's electric, so they can have a shower. That's not going to be affected, and then they can boil the kettle to do some washing up, or to be fair, I think they've got a dishwasher anyway. So yeah, house and tanks, if you get one come up to do as a job, make sure the opening in the airing cupboard allows it to come out first. So as you can see, that job really began to get on my nerves. If anything, just give me a subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed, get subscribed on the strength of what you've just seen, because it was an absolute nightmare. And it really does help push the channel to people that probably don't get a chance to see the content I'm making. I've had a lot of people comment, you know, people might even be watching this, that my content has dropped into their feed through one way or another, and it is down to you as subscribers, or people getting subscribed to the channel, liking my videos, dropping comments, interacting with me. I try to get back to as many people as I can in the comments. So if you haven't subscribed, just off the back of that video, just an absolute nightmare, hit that subscribe button. As you can tell, that job really began to grate on me that day. It was a combination really of everything that could possibly go wrong with that. Did, from the chipboard floors to the not being able to drain the tank, to then trying to get the tank out. Honestly, that tank got to a point where it was that far wedged out, I couldn't go in with it, I couldn't go out with it. But as I always sort of think through my head, it's got to get done. No matter what point you are in a job that goes a little bit wrong or a lot wrong, it's got to be done. There's got to be a solution. Whatever has happened has got to be sorted out, and you've got to get on with it and get it sorted. So that night, I turned the water back on. As I said, that job is for my Tyler, for Nath, so it weren't too much of a problem. They had their electric shower, so they could have a shower, they could wash up. It wasn't a problem at all. Yeah, so I sort of went away from that job that night, clear head, and went back the next day. So if you haven't, get subscribed to the channel, and we will crack on with the following day and see just how we got on. Finally, getting this cylinder in. Right, we're back at this cylinder job. Managed to get that one out yesterday. It did my head in completely. Just trying to get it through that door frame behind me was just an absolute pain. Then I got it down the stairs, put it outside, and got the water back on in this job, tidied up, and just called it a day yesterday. Because sometimes jobs like that, it was going all right as well. The chipboard side of the floors is chipboard, but we got that pipe in, which I thought was going to be a bit of a pain, and it weren't too bad. But getting that cylinder out turned into a nightmare. Anyway, it's done. Fresh day, fresh set of eyes on it, and we're back here. So this morning I've just built up the unit back underneath and popped in our new Gledhill stainless steel unvented cylinder that's going to go in. So This one's fairly straightforward because it's direct, because they've got no gas boiler, no central heating, they've got storage heaters all around the house. It's just doing the hot water. So we'll pop a T on the bottom. This is the inlet. This will be the inlet. So we're going to come off the cold. The cold is 15 mil. What I'm going to do is come off. I'm going to repipe this back up to there because this pipe here feeds the shower. So I'm going to repipe that. Then we're going to come off with our combination block, which is here. I'm going to mount that here. I always mount the combination block just above the top of the cylinder, just it makes life a hell of a lot easier. So with this, we'll step up to 22 mil on the bottom. The first drawer off on the left is for a balanced cold. We don't need it on this one. The one on the right here is where we're going to take off for the pressure vessel. Obviously another PRV on the side here, and then the top is the cold feed. So the top will loop back round, down into here for the cold feed. Off the top here for the hot will come off and connect onto here. I'll get rid of that gate valve, so we're just going straight onto there with a lever valve off the top of here. Then we'll obviously put the expansion vessel up, connect that up. Pressure relief out, pressure relief off the top of the combination valve will tee into here, and then off into our new D2 discharge pipe. And then this is the one that they're using, so we'll connect that up. The customer's brother is an electrician, so he's going to come back at some point and take all this out and redo everything however they want it. So let's crack on with it, get this Gladial system up and running so they've got a bit of hot water again. I think what I'm going to start with is hanging the pressure vessel on the wall, then we can work back from that. So we've got the expansion vessel here, and fortunately for these, I didn't know if it was going to come with one of them ones with a strap around it that were an absolute pain, but luckily these are the ones where you just slide the bracket in the back there and it will sit on the wall, and then all we've got to do then is connect on the bottom with our female iron to copper like so. Obviously get it taped up, and then we can work back off there into this side of the combination valve. So I've just now got the two shut-off valves onto the cold main. This one is going to go up and connect back onto that pipe up there which feeds the shower. Now, as I've said, this cold main is coming in 15 mil. So the actual cold main coming into the house is also 15 mil. So the whole lot is in this 15 mil pipe, and obviously the combination valve is 22. So we've stepped up going into the valve there, which is fine. It's not going to be an issue on this at all. We've got the expansion pipe coming off here, so that will connect to there and it will hold that up right, because for some reason these tend to sometimes just hang loose like that. But once it's piped up, that'll be vertical. Then we're going to come off here, back down into the cold feed. The pressure relief off the combination block will drop down into there. Then the ton dish will be here, and that'll be off to the D2 discharge. And then the hot, I think I'm going to come off with the hot, tuck it down the back here, and then round into there. So yeah, it's all fairly straightforward. I'm going to also put a lever valve on the hot as well, just so it can be isolated from the top as well as off the block. It's just something I always like to do. Yeah, but then we've got our 22 mil compression tee there. We'll pop a drain off on the end. But yeah, we're making a little bit of progress on this now. So what I'm going to do next is just bring this across onto there, and then that's that sort of area done. So yeah, we're getting there with this one now. So we've got the pressure vessel connected up now. I turned the water off and I thought, you know what, I'll get the water back on up to these 2 points, then I can go and put the kettle on and make a cup of tea, etc, etc. So the water's on. I thought I'd just check everywhere just to make sure that that cold feed up there, which I was told was the feed for, or which I assumed was the feed for the shower, and everything's on. So that must be from the old tanks above or something like that, but it's dead anyway. So what I'm going to have to do is just alter this slightly. Now that we've got that connected up, I'll just come off here, get rid of this bit, and just connect straight back on. I might even just do it on elbows, to be fair. Swap that out for an elbow. But yeah, I just, you know, again, you should never assume things. I've said to people before, don't assume things, and I assumed that that would be feeding something over there. But it is what it is. I'll swap this out now for an elbow, and then we can crack on with getting the rest of it in. Right then, with the hot feed coming off the top of the tank, we'll come across, we'll put a lever valve in, we'll come behind the cold feed here, and then we'll drop down directly onto the pipe there and get it connected in. So we get a couple of clips on the upright there, a couple across the back, just to hold it nice and tight in place. So I've been cracking on a little bit. We've now got the cold main connected off the top of the combination block down into the feed into the tank. I've got a drain off to put on there now. So now we're going to connect the pressure relief and the pressure relief from the combination block as well. So what we're going to do, I'm going to come down here, put a T in because we've got to pick up this PRV, and then we'll pop the ton dish roughly around there, as long as we've got from the bottom of the ton dish to this pipe here. You can't have a bend before 300 in this pipe. So we'll drop down basically here and then put a little set on and then a set back into that D2 discharge pipe. So we can connect that in, still got room then to get to the immersion heater if need be. Connect that in as well, tee it into the pipe just before we get to the ton dish so that if any of those let by, you can see through the ton dish exactly which one it is. Connect it onto there, and then we can connect. I need to shoot off and pick up a 22mm lever valve. I thought I had one for the hot. I seem to be at the minute using things in the van and forgetting to replace them. So we'll get as much as we can done here, and then we can just shoot off down to plumb base. It's only around the corner. Pick a 22mm valve up for there. We've got the discharge pipe in place. This one is just going to attach to the PRV up there. This one's coming down here. And as I said, you've got your ton dish here. We can get to the immersion heater. That's not an issue. But it's got to be 300mm before the first bend coming out the bottom of the ton dish. It's so that if ever that lets go and it's dumping water through, it doesn't have a chance to build back up. It's just a sweeping bend, but 300 from the middle of the bend to the bottom of the ton dish, and you'll be fine. Let's get a little bit of 15mm from that PRV down onto here, and then that's the PRV done. The cold main connected in and done. We just got to put a drain off on there. The expansion vessel's done, and we just need to shoot off and get a 22mm lever valve. And then we can look about getting some water inside here. I've just tightened up the immersion heater just to make sure. Always check them. Even when they say from the factory that they're fine, just give them a little nip just to make sure they're all good. We've got the lever valve now for the hot thing coming off the top of the cylinder. So we'll get this made up, we'll elbow off there, lever valve there, bit of pipe, connect onto here, which is the original hot going to feed the house. We've picked some 3-core up, so we'll wire the immersion heater in, just temporary. The customer's brother is an electrician, so he's going to come and sort all this out at some point this week and get it all connected in properly, because I'm not sure what they're going to do with this one anymore. I think that one's the economy 7 or something like that. But we'll get the cylinder tested then, and then I picked up a load of lagging, so we'd completely lag it all as well and get it all finished off nicely. There we go, all sorted. It looks a little bit higgledy-piggledy in here, but because that cupboard was that tight, it's the only sort of feasible way I could get to sort it out. At the end of the day, they're going to be putting towels and whatnot in here anyway. Let's turn the main off. So that's the incoming main turned off. We've turned the hot to the cylinder off. Let's go down now, turn all the taps off and get the cold main back on to this point here and begin testing it. So the cold main is under it. As I said, the cold main comes in 15mm as it is already. So let's turn that on. Yeah, left the tap running in here. Everywhere's tight in here. I'll just tighten that drain off up. So it's all tight in here. As I said, we've got the mains coming in. We're coming into the combination block. Got pressure relief coming off. We've got our pressure reducing valve and filter here in the back of the combination block. Off this one to our expansion vessel. Cold main off the top into the bottom of the cylinder. Fills the cylinder out the top with our lever valve on. Down and off to pick up the rest of the building. Pressure relief out the cylinder. Teed into the pressure relief off the combination block. Ton dish, 300. Out to our D2 that we put in through that floor yesterday. So let's get some water into the system. So we'll leave this to fill up for a minute and then we'll give it a test shortly. So I think that is the tank full now. You can hear the water stop going into it. Hot lever valve's open, so let's go and pull some water through. There we go. There we go. So I know the customer is going to be pleased as punch with that, because the old cylinder was in, the hot water barely used to dribble out of the taps, because the way the cylinder was in that airing cupboard, the header tank for the cylinder was just above where the actual cylinder was, so there was no head of water. Whereas now, because I know before it used to just dribble out of here. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, it's going to be chuffed to bits with that. So we'll leave that running for a little bit, just run some water out of that cylinder, have a bit of a tidy up, and then we can connect the immersion heater and get the lagging on. So I've just popped a little bit of flex on there, fired the immersion heater up. While the water's warming up in there, we're going to get these pipes lagged. We've got some lag in here. Now, to be fair, all you really need to do is lag the hot pipe going down, but I just always think it's odd with just one lag, so I'm going to lag all of them just to make it look a little bit neater inside there. All lagged, all done, heat tested, it's nice and warm, coming out the taps now. I've left the booklet with the customer, I've filled the back in, G3 requirement, that's all done. I'm going to pop one of my stickers on the front of the tank there, and this job is completely done. It's been a bit of a faff. Getting the old cylinder out was the biggest pain, but it is what it is. We've got it out, we've got the new one in, customer's happy, we've got no leak on the cylinder anymore, they've got mains pressure hot water, so that's all that counts. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, as always, drop me a comment below, and I'll catch you on the next one.